Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Yep.
Hello and welcome to Time Management, a Lions University course brought to you by the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum. My name is Past District Governor Wendy Kane, and I will be helping out along with a couple other members of the Lions University team behind the scenes today for this webinar. Our webinar is being recorded for those that cannot participate live, or if you would like to go back and review the material again at a later time. You can participate in this particular webinar, and we encourage you to do so. The ways that we'll have for participation are by either asking questions or responding to questions from our faculty by typing them into the questions pane on your control panel, or raising your hand to be called upon, and we will unmute you so that you can share verbally with us. Time Management is course number 208, which is a required course for the Lions University Master's Program that is designed to help Lions lead at the district level. The Master's Program involves the completion of 10 required courses and at least 5 elective courses from the list that we currently have shown. You can see all of the courses that are currently available or scheduled by going to the appropriate program summary page at lionsuniversity.org. The bachelor's program is shown on this slide, but as you can see, there's a master's program page just like it. You will need to register for an account on lionsuniversity.org in order to access the available courses, take quizzes, and track your progress real time. This requires a different username and password than those that you may have registered at the members.lionsforum.org site. However, you could choose to use the same if you wish. After participating in the webinar or watching a course video, select Mark as Completed at the bottom of the course page, and the link to the quiz module will appear. After you complete the quiz, you can monitor your own course completions by selecting My Account and then selecting either the My Bachelor's Program courses, My Master's Program courses, or My Doctorate Program courses. And we'd like to stress that it is your responsibility to track your own progress. When you have completed a phase of the program, such as all of the required courses, at least the 5 electives, or the required experience, you will want to click the link for Apply for Program Credit and select the appropriate phase. There you have a quiz-like structure where you can complete the relevant information, providing as much detail as possible to assist our team in verifying that you have met the criteria. As a reminder, you can take any course in any order, or just the courses that are of interest to you. However, attendance at the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum in 2014 or later is a component for those of you who are working towards completing the bachelor's, master's, and/or doctorate programs. It is my pleasure now to introduce you to our faculty for the Time Management course, Past District Governor Nancy Watt Durant. Past District Governor Nancy presented this topic at the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum recently, and this is a great opportunity for us to refresh the material that we have online for all of our Lions University participants. Welcome, Nancy.
Thanks very much, Wendy, and good evening, everyone. It's good to see you here. As with all the learning situations we find ourselves in, we have objectives, and here are ours for this evening. At the end of our session, you're going to have a better understanding of the importance of time management, be able to recognize the common obstacles we all encounter in trying to manage our time better, and we'll talk about ideas that'll help you to develop your own strategies for more effective use of your time. Our friend looks a bit busy. No wonder she tells the caller, "I've got time in my schedule to attend a time management seminar the day after I retire." I could sort of relate to that when I was working. I hope she eventually decided to attend so she could learn how to be less busy and more productive. And if you follow Maxine, you know she usually has words of wisdom. She seems to have some ideas here about organization. I find it helps to organize into categories, she says. Things I won't do now, things I won't do later, and things I'll never do. Her ideas may be a bit skewed, but at least she's given some thought to the issue. So let's get into this and find out how we can help our cartoon friends and ourselves manage time. Time waits for no man, or no woman for that fact. It's an old saying, but it's really quite true. We all wish we had more time to get things done. We know there are only 60 minutes in an hour and 24 hours a day, and those are facts and we can't alter them. We can't create time, we can't store it for later use, and we can't buy time in spite of the saying, and once it's gone, well, it's gone. So it's important that we make the best use of our precious time to accomplish our tasks at work, home, have time to enjoy our families and our friends, engage in leisure and volunteer activities that will enrich our lives and the lives of others. I saw this recently on a signboard at a church in my community, and I thought, oh, this is just so timely, if you'll pardon the pun. The bad news is time flies. The good news is you're the pilot. And you are. I am. It's up to us to know how to use our time to the best advantage, but we don't always remember that. As Lion leaders, it's important to balance our personal, work, and Lions lives to be effectively managing our time. So what are we going to do about it? I have a question for you. How does poor time management affect your life? Now, Wendy said earlier that you can type answers into the question pane, or if you have audio, you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you so that you can speak to us directly. So let's hear, how does poor time management affect your life? I can't see any responses in there.
Michael Venning has his hand raised. Michael, I'm not sure if that is from a prior comment or if you have something to contribute here. So I'm going to unmute you for a moment while more of the comments come into the questions pane. Michael? How about now, Michael? Sorry about that. Okay, he typed into the comments or the questions pane. You get a whole lot of nothing done. Sue Wolf has her hand raised, so I'm going to unmute you, Sue. I'm having trouble unmuting right now. Oh, Sue, you may be self-muted and I can't unmute you. There you go. Yes.
At the end of the day, it turns out I don't get as much done as I wanted to, even when I make my to-do list. There's still more things to do.
That certainly can be a problem. And in addition to managing time, I think we have to learn to manage our to-do list as well, perhaps by making them a bit more realistic.
Well, I get more done when I have more to do.
So you're a busy person and you ask a busy person to do something and they succeed, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Verna's got a comment here. Her list apparently is too big. That could be an issue. Yeah.
Yeah. She had an earlier comment that you never complete anything. How else does it affect you? Lion Paula shared it causes undue and unnecessary stress and rush.
Oh, yes.
Verna also
I've got one here from Claire that says the to-do list always seems to grow.
They do. They do. I hope you're striking off the completed tasks.
Yes, we have several comments about causing stress. Jennifer also shared it makes her day chaotic. Margaret also said adds more stress. Nancy shared it makes me do double work.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a comment from
Catherine says that projects and activities are rushed and not completed thoughtfully.
That's a good point. Mark says procrastination. Yeah. Sometimes you look at the task and it just seems absolutely overwhelming, so you have a tendency to keep pushing things off and pushing things off. I think Maxine maybe have that problem.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, well, those are good comments, and thank you all. I appreciate your participating there. Certainly trying to manage tasks, projects, commitments, and responsibilities of a Lion leader, in addition to those in our personal and work life, can be challenging at the best of times, of course nearly impossible at the worst. Just too many things to juggle all at the same time, and I think that certainly was covered in the comments. Poor time management increases personal and work stress, yes, leaving us with less time for our families, friends, and leisure. Tasks are neglected or unfinished, and everything suddenly becomes urgent. Most of us know someone who has a reputation for always being late, and I hope this does not include you, because it's definitely not the kind of reputation any of us would want. With the right strategies, however, we can use our time more effectively, get things done on time, and best of all, achieve our goals. Let's have a look at some common obstacles to time management. Unclear objectives and priorities, disorganization, distractions and interruptions, the inability to say no, procrastination, that was mentioned, personal and work commitments, yeah, sometimes they're just too many, multitasking, stress and fatigue. So you all did cover most of those in your comments, so you're way ahead of the bus here. That's good. This is Mike, and he appears to be in trouble. He feels he's being swamped with things he should be spending time on right now. So what we're going to do is we have a case study here, and we're going to look at his day. We're going to identify some of his issues, and then we'll talk about strategies to help him make his life happier and more rewarding. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is a fantasy created to take in all of the things that we're trying to cover. It's probably the worst day in anybody's life, so we got to feel kind of sorry for Mike. I hope in real life he isn't anything like this. 6:30 in the morning, his alarm goes off and he hits the snooze button. It's been a difficult week and he really feels a few more minutes sleep would be nice. He wakes with a start around 7:30 and realizes he's overslept and he's going to be way late for work. So he grabs a coffee and rushes out the door. On the way, he realizes he's forgotten to pick up the files he needs for his Lions meeting that evening. And then he says, well, to himself, well, at least I can pick them up when I bring my daughter home from her soccer game. Now, he's lucky he lives fairly close to work because he gets there by 8:15. And over the next few hours, he tries to make some headway on his work, but is constantly interrupted by either client calls, coworkers stopping by to chat or catch up on office gossip. Finally, it's noon, and he's looking forward to having a quiet lunch, and then he suddenly remembers he has a meeting right after lunch. So he spends his lunch hour trying to prepare, but he isn't quite clear on what he's supposed to be covering because he can't find his agenda and a couple of his files have gone missing. Finally, he gets himself kind of put together, and at 1:15, he goes to the meeting, and he's come rather dismayed as his manager outlines a new project and appoints him leader. Of course, it adds responsibility to his already heavy workload, but he accepts it anyway. He goes back to his office, and around 2:30, he takes a call from Maria, who's one of his coworkers. She's having a problem, and she asks him for help. Now, like most people, Mike is supportive. He's a nice person. He wants to help, so he says sure. But even though he knows deep down he doesn't have the time to do it. So I'd like to have you look at the obstacles. If we can flip the, thanks, Wendy. Look at the obstacles here and try and identify some instances where Mike had issues. Can you either raise your hand or type into the question pane? Do you believe Mike has any clear objectives and priorities in what you just heard about his day? Hitting the snooze button. Yeah, it was a priority, but it wasn't a pretty good one. Somebody says you always feel rushed. Yeah. Anybody with a hand up?
Just Michael, who can't find a way to keep it down. So I don't think Michael's going to weigh in on this one, but it keeps.
Oh, that's okay. Mike probably feels a little bit sorry for Mike.
It may. Maria has her hand up, and I've unmuted you. Maria? Maria, can you hear us? Okay, I'm going to mute her again. Abdullah raised his hand just a minute here, and he is self-muted. Can you unmute yourself? We've got a couple of comments who responded with the questions pane.
Okay.
Let's see, too many distractions, and he should have had his report done previously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all we've got as it relates to unclear objectives and priorities.
Okay, that's good. Okay, we've touched on disorganization, which is the next one. If we just do a click here, Lindy. Yeah, he definitely seems to be disorganized. He forgot his lines files. He misplaced his agenda. A couple of files have gone AWOL on him. So he doesn't seem to have his priorities or his organizational abilities under control yet.
Yes, Catherine just commented that he wasn't prepared for the meeting and should aid his coworker quickly or suggest that someone who could be available. And we had a couple comments both from Catherine and Claire about needing to say no for those additional distractions and also having the report ready.
That's good. May as well just click on the rest of those down to the end of the page, because it seems that everybody is touching on those quite well. Certainly a lack of planning where he forgot to write the report, the distractions and the interruptions, and that's always a difficult thing to handle, because when people start sticking their head in the office and start to chat, you don't want to be rude, but by the same token, they should realize that you're there to work and you've got to get on with things. Phone calls, chatty coworkers, emails, all big problems for him. And for sure, the inability to say no. He agrees to help Mary. He takes on a new project. So again, he's trying to be nice, he's trying to be helpful, but he's also not doing much to organize his life better. Okay, let's get back and see what he does with the rest of his day. Excuse me. After he goes back from the meeting, he works to finish the report that's due for tomorrow, but he spends about 30 minutes answering a lot of non-critical emails that his assistant could probably have handled instead. He leaves the office without completing the work, and he plans to come in early tomorrow morning to try and finish it up. He has a commitment to attend his daughter's soccer game, and as promised, he's there, and although he's feeling pretty guilty about the unfinished work. After the game, he drops her at home, and luckily he remembers to pick up his Lions files. He's at his Lions meeting for about an hour and a half, from 7 to 8:30, and there's a speaker there from the library talking about a new literacy program that they're planning, and they're hoping to have the Lions help out with holding a fundraiser. Everyone in the club is pretty enthusiastic about the challenge, but no one is willing to take on the responsibility of chairing it. So as a club president, Mike feels it falls to him to take it on and says he'll do it. He gets home about 9 o'clock. He's not had a great day. He's tired. He's uneasy about the situation at work. He's unhappy with his fellow Lions. He's wondering how he'll ever get control over his many commitments. So he tries to relax by watching some TV. Doesn't seem to work very well, and finally he falls into bed around 11 o'clock, and rather than being able to get to sleep, he tosses and turns and worries about what tomorrow is going to bring. We flip to the next slide. Procrastination is the thief of time. It's better to get on with something than to sit around and think about how difficult it will be and how much you really don't want to do it, when all along you know it's got to be done anyway. Worst case scenario, you just don't do it, and then your reputation suffers. Personal commitments and work work obligations are often in conflict. And again, I'm going to ask you, what are Mike's? His personal and work obligations and commitments, and how those conflicts are affecting him. Excuse me. I realize that this is a challenge. If you're like me, I don't type very quickly. Verna says he's taking on too many challenges. I agree, he certainly is. He needs to learn what his limitations are.
Nancy shared that he's a leader without confidence in his coworkers and needs to delegate. Terry shared that he wants to please everyone. Verna also added that he should have asked one of the Lions members to chair the task.
Very good. Learning to delegate is certainly something that you need to do. People don't feel comfortable doing with it, but as a good leader, that's something that you're going to have to really work on, because as we see here, you can't do everything yourself.
Yeah, Catherine shared that maybe offer to co-chair and involve other Lions for the fundraiser. It needs to settle down, clear reports that are required, and focus on work, family, and self first. Any other focus can be delegated.
Yeah, and I think there was a good point there about getting other Lions involved. And okay, you can offer to co-chair with them, but get them involved, because this is an opportunity for them to learn leadership skills, and this is what it's all about, really. I mean, he is the club president, and part of his duties as club president should be to develop Lions and help them develop their leadership skills.
Yep, Claire shared allow others to do it even if it's not the right way. And Verna shared usually if you ask, they will say yes. And one of the things that I would add in is if no one agrees to it, then maybe that's telling for the club of whether they're really committed to the project.
That's a good point. I know in my club, when something comes up like that, we like to get a general consensus about how the Lions feel about it. And if it doesn't seem that it's going to be a go, then we turn it down. Because there's nothing worse than making... Go ahead.
Terry also says that he seems to want to please everyone, which could be an issue.
He does, doesn't he? Yes. Yeah, he wants to be friends and helpful and work with everybody. Okay, let's on to the next. Multitasking. Is it good, bad, or indifferent? How do you feel about it? Are you a good multitasker, or is it something you'd rather not do? Does anybody have any comment or feelings about that? Because Mike was certainly trying to multitask.
We did have one more comment that came in. Paula said, we have committee chairmen who spearhead certain service areas. That helps with the signing out the different responsibilities.
Good point.
Yep. We had Sue has raised her hand, so Sue, you are self-muted, and that'll give some others time to also type in the questions.
Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, good. I'm really pretty good at multitasking, but it depends on the tasks and where I am. If it's something that can be done without, like I'm in Bible studies and I'm in the Lions and I've got a women's group, and if I can do certain things while I'm doing something else that doesn't require all my attention, then I can do pretty good at more than one thing.
Yeah, sometimes the tasks are complementary, and you're right. You can handle more than one at the same time and get a good result. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. I'm
also retired, and I'm some days are really full from like 7 in the morning until maybe 10 at night, depending on the day of the day. Tuesdays are good for that. If I have a night meeting, otherwise I'm done around 5, and then I can go home and do some multitasking at my house, organizing.
Good for you.
But yeah, it just depends on if you have to pay attention to what's going on a lot, or if you're at something that is going on and you're just kind of observing and not really having to put thought into that, and just being a participant, just in the audience. And sometimes I can get other things done.
Good.
But I always bring stuff with me, so if I'm waiting in a doctor's office or in a chiropractor's office, or I'm waiting for another meeting to start, I can always work on something else in the meantime. So I'm always doing stuff like that. There's very little of idle time, I think.
Good for you. You're thinking ahead.
Yeah, you have to. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thanks for that.
We have some differing perceptions in the responses, the written responses. Homer shared you can only work on one thing at a time. Terry commented, it's good if it's done right. You need to prioritize. A response from Maria, to multitask, you need to have some degree of organization. That's for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
Paula shares, I think I'm a good multitasker, but I prefer not to do it, as sometimes I end up with a lot of unfinished activities. Let's see. And unfinished, small activities. Sorry, she had a second comment there I was trying to fold in.
Okay. Mark says it reduces productivity.
Yep. Catherine shared that by multitasking, no one focal point may be done well, and you can lose sight of the end goal or spread yourself too thin. And Verna says, whatever you do, do it well.
Yes, absolutely. Those are good comments, everybody. Thanks very much. I was doing some reading recently about multitasking, and it's interesting because the thought now is that unless you are very well organized, don't do it, because most of us don't seem to be able to manage it particularly well. So the general thinking is it's not the best way to get things done. Concentrate on one task at a time, do it well, and finish on time or before your schedule, and everybody will be happier. But of course, we've heard from some people here who are able to multitask, and I say, good for you. If you can, keep doing it. And the rest of us are very, very envious of you. And finally, stress and fatigue, and this has been touched on several times. At the end of the day, Mike is clearly both stressed and tired. He goes to bed, he can't sleep, and you just know he's likely to have a repeat of this tomorrow morning when he tries to get up on time. And as I said before, in all fairness to him, this was someone's worst day possible, but it was written to try and encompass all the bad things that can happen. I'm sure that Mike did some very good things too. So we got to give him that. So thanks very much for sharing your thoughts on his day.
I have a comment that just came on from Homer that I think I really like this comment. It says, I think that a lot of people confuse serial tasking with multitasking.
I've lost you there, Gary.
Am I back now?
Yes. There, people are confusing serial tasking with multitasking. That's a good point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a question came in to please explain what that difference is. So I would, looking at this, I'd say serial tasking is trying to take on too much, where multitasking is understanding what you can handle at one time, whether it be one or two tasks that you're bouncing between. But serial tasking is just never saying no and just taking it all upon.
So just the pile gets bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. Yeah. Okay, thanks everybody. So let's move on to some strategies now. Let's talk about effective strategies for overcoming some of the obstacles that we just discussed. Set objectives. Establish objectives for each and every task or project and make sure that your objectives are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. I'm sure that sounds familiar if you've attended any goal-setting webinars or similar presentations. So you'll have recognized as acronyms, SMART goals, and what we want are SMART objectives. So it's exactly the same: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Prioritize, and we've heard that a few times too. Determine which tasks that you should do by yourself, delegate to someone else, or perhaps delay to a later time. Making a daily plan of what you'll do and when you'll try and do it, and try to stick to it. Put a time limit on tasks and try to stay within the limits if you can. Mike seemed to want to do everything himself, and we did touch on that. He answered phone calls, he handles the emails, he's trying to help a co-worker, he wants to chat to everyone, take on new projects at work and Lions, and appeared he was always behind the 8 ball, at work at least. We're not sure about home or Lions, but it likely wasn't much better there either. To-do lists are great help, and we've talked about that. They help you to set your priorities as well as setting deadlines for the items on the list. Even Maxine had her to-do list. I hope yours are a bit more practical and productive than hers, but at least she was trying. Place the most pressing and important tasks in the morning section of your list, so you'll be tackling them when you're alert and fresh. Your brain is more active and lists the easier and less immediate tasks for later on in the day when you're starting to get a little bit tired. Stay organized, excuse me, by using a planner, a calendar, a notebook, a software program, whatever works to help keep track of your tasks, project deadlines, meetings, and also extend organization to your work environment, your office or your workspace, your desk. Mike couldn't locate his agenda. A couple of his files are missing, and he spent precious time looking for them. So remember, return files, reference materials, etc. to their proper locations, or if you've got somebody else who's responsible for that, make sure that they do it. We've talked about multitasking because for most of us, it's not an efficient use of our time. So rather than getting things all jumbled up and not doing them well, let's just stick to doing one thing at a time. And for those lucky individuals who can do it, don't stop trying. Block out distractions. Don't react each time the phone rings. Have an assistant. If you're lucky to have an assistant, maybe they can screen calls for you. Every time the email chimes, you don't have to react to it. Turn off the phone, turn off the emails. Answer emails according to your daily plan, and the same for returning phone calls. And if you have an office with a door, close it. And if you don't, ask your coworkers that they'd please respect your need for time to concentrate on a task. Learn to say no, and that was mentioned a number of times as well. Learn to say no and mean it. Realize you can't do everything for everyone, and avoid taking on things you know deep down you just don't have the time to give them your full attention. If you continue to say yes and you can't deliver, you gain a reputation for unreliability, and once you've had that, it's pretty difficult to shake it. How about trying this? I'll check my calendar and get back to you. This lets you avoid having to make commitments right away, and it allows you to say no with grace. We spend a lot of time traveling from work on public transit, standing in lines, endless commercials on TV, etc., etc. And one of our respondents did cover this. And so use some of that time to answer an email, maybe make a phone call, read a report, make up your to-do lists. Schedule breaks between tasks. I think this is very important because the human brain can only focus for about 90 minutes at a time. So give yourself and your brain some well-deserved rest and then get back to work with energy and enthusiasm. Don't strive for perfection. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it is true. Rarely do you get it perfect the first time. So rather than sit back and not, excuse me, I just messed up on that. So rarely do you get it perfect the first time. So try the very best. And if you make a mistake or two, you learn from them. You'll be less likely to repeat them. Additionally, don't sit around and wait for inspiration every time you start something new. Do it now. Acknowledge your emotions and your daydreams and start even when you feel unsure, because if you trust your motivation and get going, you'll be absolutely amazed at what you can accomplish. Train the other side of your brain. If you do what I call head work all day long, and that is, reading reports, writing reports, things like that, get involved in something physical. Take on a new sport. Join a running group or take up a hobby. If you're involved in physical work, then take a course or join a reading group. The idea is to get outside your comfort zone and challenge you so you got both sides of your brain working. You'll be amazed how clear-headed it'll get you to become. Excuse me. Exercise often. This helps you handle stress, Try and get adequate sleep every night. I mean, ideally, we're supposed to get 8 hours. I know it's not possible always to have that happen, but try and get a decent night's sleep. Some people find medication works quite well. And be sure to take time for yourself, your family, and your friends, your Lions activities, things like that. Remember to stick to your schedule. You spend all that time making it up. Well, try and stick to it. It's going to take some practice, but if you keep working at it, you'll find that it does really start to make a difference. We talked about this. Let the phone ring. Let the emails chime on. Don't put off until tomorrow what you can reasonably do today. I think you get the idea. You really have to start thinking about yourself and your priorities and getting things in a more manageable state of affairs. Time management, like a lot of things, is a skill. And like a lot of other things, it takes time to develop it, and it's different for each and every one of us. We just have to work on it, find out what works best for us, and you'll be surprised with the results. Here's our new Mike. He did it. It may have taken him a lot of trial and error, but eventually he learned to use his time more wisely and be more effective in his various roles. Now he has time to take a day off, not feel guilty about enjoying himself. As we said, time management is a skill. We just need to find out what works for us. So let's review the objectives. We said by the end of the session, we wanted to have a better understanding, a clearer understanding of the importance of time management, and be able to recognize the common obstacles to effective time management and to develop some effective strategies to accomplish our objectives. I feel we've reached them, and that's thanks to you and your input. So we could have the next slide, please.
Nancy, I wanted to just mention we did have one other comment that came in on the questions. Nancy shared another one of the ideas or good ideas at the end. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator is a good way to get up and get moving, especially if you spend a lot of time in that head space or more mental work. And also stretching stiff muscles can help get both sides of the brain and the body moving. So thank you.
For sure, yes. Get up from your desk every 15-20 minutes, and do a wander around it, or say stretching, whatever. Yeah, gets the blood flowing. Okay, so now it's up to you. We're going to have the PowerPoint, the quiz, and a handout on the Lions University in the next day or so. So you'll be able to review the content if you choose and take the quiz. Are there any last questions or observations that anybody would like to make? Again, if you would raise your hand or type them into the question pane. Excuse me, my voice is going on me.
While we give folks an opportunity to type in any questions they might have, I would just say the quiz is already available for you on the website, and the handout, I included a link in the chat pane, but we'll connect the handout to the course page as well. We didn't get that done ahead of time. So we've got some positive feedback, but no other questions or comments at this point. So I would just remind folks while we wait a couple of more moments on any feedback that comes in, that after you watch the video or attend a live webinar like this, go to the individual course page on the Lions University website, and at the bottom of the course page, you click the green button in the green box that says Mark as completed, and then there will be a purplish blue button that says Next Unit. You click that, and it'll take you right to the quiz. Oops, Terry had a correction. The handout says course 280. It is course 208. We'll make that correction before connecting the link online. Thank you, Terry. Good catch.
Isn't it funny, no matter how many times you look at something, you always see what you want to see. And a second pair of eyes are invaluable.
Yes, indeed. So I guess thank you all for your participation and your good ideas and suggestions to add to this course.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. I realize how difficult it is to get the questions typed in and things like that. But it is one of the challenges of doing a webinar, and thank you all very much for your efforts. Much appreciated. And thank you, Wendy and Gary and Robert, for your assistance. Again, very much appreciated.
So we will be stopping the recording. We have some thank yous coming in, particularly to you, Past District Governor Nancy. Thank you for serving as our faculty for this course. And we currently do have the old recording online that will be replaced probably within an hour with the new recording. So thank you all for your participation. Thank you, Nancy, for a great webinar, and hope everyone has a good evening.
Thank you. Good night, all.